In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where civilizations rise and fall like distant stars, there exists a simple truth that most species have forgotten. The bond between a protector and their protected is not measured by intelligence, technology, or even species. It is measured by love, loyalty, and the willingness to face the impossible for those who cannot defend themselves. The Galactic Council had seen many wonders. They had witnessed the crystalline cities of Vorthak, where beings of pure energy conducted symphonies that could reshape matter itself. They had marveled at the biomechanical hives of the Zirian Collective, where millions of minds worked as one to solve the universe's greatest mysteries. They had even stood in awe before the temporal architects of Kronos Prime, who could fold space and time like origami. But they had never seen anything quite like what happened when they made the mistake of mocking a human's best friend. What started as casual entertainment in the Council's grand halls would become a legend whispered across 1,000 worlds. A story of how the galaxy learned that sometimes the greatest strength doesn't come from advanced weapons or superior intellect, but from something far more dangerous, a human who loves their dog. This is that story. Captain Sarah Chun had always believed that space would be cold, empty, and lonely. She was right about the first two, but completely wrong about the third. As she stepped off the transport shuttle onto Station Nexus 7, her boots clicking against the polished metal floor, she wasn't alone. Beside her trotted a 4-year-old golden retriever named Charlie, his tail wagging with the kind of enthusiasm that only dogs possess when exploring somewhere new. The massive space station orbited the neutral world of Kepler 442b, serving as the primary diplomatic hub for the Galactic Council. Towering spires of crystalline metal stretched in all directions, while holographic displays showed real-time translations in over 3,000 languages. Beings from across the galaxy moved through the corridors with purpose, their forms ranging from humanoid to utterly alien. Some floated on streams of controlled gravity, others skittered across the walls on thousands of tiny legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained within specialized suits. Sarah adjusted the translator device, clipped to her uniform collar, and tightened her grip on Charlie's leash. As Earth's newly appointed representative to the Galactic Council, she knew she was walking into a political minefield. Humanity had only made first contact 3 years ago, and many species still viewed Earth as a primitive backwater world populated by violent, unpredictable creatures. The fact that she had insisted on bringing Charlie probably wouldn't help that reputation. Station protocols require all biological entities to register at the central checkpoint, announced a mechanical voice in perfectly crisp English. A hovering drone, no larger than a dinner plate, materialized beside them with a soft blue glow. Please proceed to Level 7, Section C. Thank you, Sarah replied, though she suspected the drone had already moved on to assist other arrivals. Charlie sniffed the air curiously, his nose twitching at the thousands of unfamiliar scents. The station's atmosphere was carefully controlled to accommodate dozens of different species, resulting in a complex mixture of gases that made everything smell like ozone and exotic flowers. The journey to the registration checkpoint took them through the station's main thoroughfare, a massive corridor that could have housed a small city. Shops, restaurants, and cultural centers lined the walls, each designed to cater to different species' needs. Sarah watched a group of insectoid beings examine what appeared to be glowing fruit at a market stall, while nearby, several tall, blue-skinned humanoids engaged in what sounded like heated debate over a 3-dimensional holographic game. Charlie, for his part, was having the time of his life. His tail never stopped wagging as he took in the sights, sounds, and especially the smells of this incredible new environment. Several smaller creatures, resembling metallic ferrets, approached cautiously before darting away when Charlie offered a friendly sniff. A few beings stopped to stare at the unusual pair, though whether out of curiosity or concern, Sarah couldn't tell. Identification and purpose of visit requested the clerk at the registration checkpoint, a tall, spindly creature with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like an oil slick. Its 3 eyes focused on Sarah while the fourth examined a holographic display. Captain Sarah Chun, representing Earth in the Galactic Council proceedings. This is Charlie, my companion animal. Sarah presented her credentials, which the clerk examined with one of its free hands. Companion animal? The clerk's skin shifted to a deep purple, which Sarah's research had suggested indicated confusion or surprise. Is this creature a tool of some kind? A biological computer? No, he's my pet. My friend, actually. We brought him because Earth's representatives believed it would help other species understand our culture better. Sarah kept her voice steady, though she could feel the stares of other beings in the vicinity. Bait. The purple color deepened, and the clerk's fourth arm gestured frantically at its holographic display. You maintain a non-sentient biological entity for entertainment purposes? Not entertainment. Companionship. Charlie is my family. Sarah reached down to pat Charlie's head, and the dog responded by sitting politely and looking up at her with absolute trust and adoration. The clerk's skin color shifted through several hues before settling on orange. This is highly irregular. Most species either domesticate creatures for specific purposes or leave them in their natural habitats. Groups of beings stopped their conversations to point at Charlie, and she caught fragments of translated comments. How strange. Why would they bring that thing? Humans are even more primitive than we thought. Their assigned quarters were spacious by Earth standards, though designed with functionality rather than comfort in mind. The walls were neutral gray metal, and the furniture appeared to be made from some kind of self-adjusting polymer that reshaped itself based on the user's body type. A large window provided a spectacular view of Kepler 442b below, its swirling green and blue atmosphere creating hypnotic patterns in the starlight. Charlie immediately began exploring their new temporary home, his nose working overtime as he investigated every corner. He seemed particularly fascinated by a small alcove that contained what appeared to be some kind of meditation space, complete with floating crystals that hummed softly when approached. "What do you think, boy?" Sarah asked, settling into one of the polymer chairs. "Think we can make a good impression tomorrow?" Charlie patted over and placed his head on her lap, looking up at her with those warm brown eyes that had gotten them both through so many difficult times. Sarah scratched behind his ears, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. No matter how strange or intimidating this place was, at least she wasn't facing it alone. "Attention all residents," announced the station's automated system. "The evening meal period has begun. Species-appropriate nutrition is available in the central dining complex on level 9. Sarah looked down at Charlie. "Hungry." The word hungry was one of many that Charlie understood perfectly, and his immediate tail wagging provided a clear answer. The dining complex was even more impressive than the main thoroughfare. Hundreds of different food stations catered to every conceivable dietary requirement, from the sulfur-based sustenance preferred by the rock-like Threnodidae to the pure energy absorption chambers used by beings of living light. The air was filled with thousands of different aromas, some pleasant, others completely alien to human senses. Sarah located the section designated for carbon-based life forms and selected what appeared to be a reasonable approximation of Earth food. Charlie's meal was simpler. She'd brought enough of his regular dog food to last their entire stay, knowing that alien cuisine probably wasn't suitable for golden retriever digestion. They found an empty table in what seemed to be a neutral zone, surrounded by beings from various species who were similarly trying to enjoy their meals without incident. Charlie lay down beside Sarah's chair, occasionally accepting small pieces of her food when she was certain they were safe for him to eat. "Excuse me," came a melodious voice from behind them. Sarah turned to see a tall, elegant being with pale, silver skin and large, dark eyes. Its species was one she recognized from her briefings as the Elenari, known for their diplomatic skills and cultural curiosity. "I hope I am not intruding, but I could not help but notice your companion. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Third House of Elenari." "Captain Sarah Chun, and this is Charlie," Sarah replied, gesturing to her dog. Please feel free to join us. Veltar settled gracefully into a chair across from them, their movements fluid and precise. I've been studying your species since contact was established, and I must admit, the practice of keeping companion animals is fascinating. May I ask what purpose this creature serves? Sarah considered her answer carefully. Charlie doesn't serve a purpose in the way you might think. He's not a tool or a resource. He's my friend. He provides companionship, emotional support, and unconditional love. In return, I care for him, protect him, and love him back. Unconditional love, Veltar repeated, as if testing the concept. This means the creature's affection for you does not depend on your actions or your usefulness to it. Exactly. Charlie would love me whether I was the most successful captain in the fleet or unemployed on Earth. He doesn't care about my accomplishments or my failures. He just cares about me. Veltar observed Charlie for a long moment, noting the way the dog occasionally looked up at Sarah, the relaxed but alert posture, the gentle thumping of his tail against the floor. And you feel the same toward him? Ido. I would do anything to protect Charlie. He's my responsibility, my family, my friend. He depends on me completely, and I take that trust seriously. How fascinating, Veltar murmured. Most species form relationships based on mutual benefit, shared goals, or survival advantages. This concept of love without expectation of return is unique. Their conversation was interrupted by a burst of harsh laughter from a nearby table. A group of beings Sarah didn't recognize were pointing at Charlie and speaking in rapid, clicking sounds that her translator struggled to interpret. Eventually, the device managed to provide a rough translation. Look at the humans and their pet beast. How amusing that such a primitive species thinks bringing their animal toys to a diplomatic gathering is appropriate. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but before she could respond, Veltar's expression had darkened considerably. The Elinari stood with fluid grace and approached the other table. Honored delegates, Veltar said, their voice carrying the formal tones of diplomatic protocol. Perhaps you would care to explain your apparent amusement? The leader of the group, a being that resembled a cross between a lizard and a mechanical construct, gestured dismissively at Sarah and Charlie. We were merely observing the primitive practices of the newest council candidates. Bringing non-sentient creatures to a gathering of civilization's most advanced species demonstrates their lack of understanding regarding proper protocol. Ici, Veltar replied smoothly. And tell me, honored Korthax, what do your people consider the highest virtue? The Korthax leader's scales shifted to a more vibrant green. Efficiency and logical resource allocation, obviously. Every action must serve a clear purpose in advancing one's species. How interesting. The Elinari consider compassion and the ability to form bonds beyond mere utility to be the highest virtues. Perhaps this demonstrates that the humans understand something about advanced civilization that your people have not yet grasped. The tension at the Korthax table was palpable, their scales now cycling through multiple colors rapidly. You would defend these primitives and their animal? Veltar's smile was sharp as a blade. I would defend the concept that true advancement includes the capacity for love, loyalty, and selfless care for others. Qualities that, I observe, the human demonstrates toward their companion. The Korthax leader stood abruptly, its mechanical components whirring with agitation. This discussion is pointless. Tomorrow's council proceedings will demonstrate which species truly understand civilization. The group departed with much mechanical clicking and scale rustling. Veltar returned to Sarah's table, settling back into their chair with apparent satisfaction. I apologize for that display. The Korthax are challenging to work with. Thank you for defending us, Sarah said, genuinely grateful. You didn't have to do that. Perhaps not, Veltar agreed, but I found myself curious about this bond you described. And besides, they added with what might have been a smile, your Charlie seems like quite a remarkable creature. As if sensing he was being discussed, Charlie lifted his head and looked directly at Veltar, his tail wagging slowly. The Elinari ambassador extended one long, pale finger, and after a moment's hesitation, Charlie gently sniffed it before allowing Veltar to pet his head. Extraordinary, Veltar whispered. He trusts me, despite never having met my kind before. That's Charlie, Sarah said with pride. He sees the good in everyone until they prove otherwise. It's a gift humans learned from dogs thousands of years ago. As they finished their meal and prepared to return to their quarters, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow's council proceedings would be more challenging than she had anticipated. The Korthax clearly saw humans as inferior, and Charlie's presence seemed to reinforce their prejudices rather than challenge them. But as she looked down at her faithful companion, padding along beside her with complete trust and contentment, Sarah reminded herself why she had insisted on bringing him. Charlie represented the best of humanity: loyalty, love, courage, and the willingness to trust in others. If the Galactic Council couldn't understand the value of those qualities, then perhaps they weren't as advanced as they believed. The night cycle on Station Nexus 7 lasted exactly 8 standard hours, during which the lighting dimmed and the corridors fell quiet. Sarah lay on the adjustable sleeping platform, staring up at the ceiling while Charlie curled up on his bed beside her. Through the large window, the stars wheeled slowly as the station maintained its orbit. Tomorrow would determine humanity's place in the galactic community. Sarah just hoped that Charlie's presence would help other species see that strength wasn't always about technology or efficiency. Sometimes it was about something much simpler and infinitely more powerful: the bond between friends who would never abandon each other, no matter what challenges they faced. The council chambers of Station Nexus 7 were a marvel of engineering and diplomacy. The vast spherical room could accommodate representatives from over 200 species, with specialized seating, atmospheric controls, and gravitational fields adjusted for each delegation's needs. Some species required high-pressure environments, others thrived in near-vacuum conditions, and still others existed as pure energy. Somehow, the chambers managed to provide for all of them simultaneously. Sarah stood at the entrance, taking in the overwhelming sight of galactic civilization assembled in one place. Representatives floated in bubbles of liquid methane, perched on crystalline platforms, or moved through the air as glowing orbs of light. The cacophony of languages, even filtered through universal translators, created a constant background hum that seemed to vibrate through the very walls. Charlie pressed against her leg, sensing her nervousness. His warm presence was immediately comforting, reminding her that she wasn't facing this alone. She reached down to scratch behind his ears, drawing strength from his calm confidence. "First time in the council chambers?" asked a familiar, melodious voice. Ambassador Veltar approached, their silver skin gleaming under the chamber's complex lighting system. "It can be overwhelming initially." "It's incredible," Sarah admitted. "I've studied the different species for months, but seeing everyone together like this..." She gestured helplessly at the scope of the assembly. "Each species you see represents millions, sometimes billions, of lives," Veltar explained. "The decisions made in this chamber affect countless worlds. It is a tremendous responsibility." They paused, looking down at Charlie. "How is your companion handling the environment?" Sarah glanced at Charlie, who was watching the proceedings with alert curiosity. His tail wagged slowly as he observed a group of small, bird-like creatures flitting between the upper galleries. "He seems to be taking it better than I am, honestly. Dogs are remarkably adaptable." "The human delegation is called to present," announced the chamber's central AI system. The massive holographic display at the center of the sphere showed Earth's designation and Sarah's credentials. Around the chamber, hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and other perceptual organs focused on the human section. Sarah made her way to the designated speaking platform, Charlie walking calmly beside her. The platform rose smoothly through the chamber's center, positioning them where all delegates could see them clearly. Sarah felt her heart racing as she looked out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carried by the chamber's acoustics to every corner of the sphere. I am Captain Sarah Chun, representing Earth and humanity in our petition for membership in the Galactic Council. With me is my companion, Charlie, who represents an important aspect of human culture that we believe adds value to our species' potential contributions. A wave of translated murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward with interest, while others seemed to dismiss the humans immediately. Sarah could see the Korthax delegation in their metallic section, their scales shifting through colors that suggested amusement or contempt. Before we begin formal proceedings, announced the chamber's senior moderator, an ancient being known only as the Pre-March whose species have been lost to time, the delegate from Korthax Prime has requested permission to address a point of order. Sarah's stomach sank as the Korthax leader rose from their delegation platform. Commander Zoith Carr was an imposing figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall with scales that shifted between metallic bronze and deep green. Cybernetic implants enhanced their natural reptilian features, creating an appearance that was both organic and mechanical. Honored Pre-March, esteemed delegates, Zoith Carr began, their voice carrying the sharp edges of their species' mechanical translation system. The Korthax delegation wishes to address what we consider a violation of Council protocol. The human delegation has brought a non-sentient biological entity into these chambers, demonstrating either ignorance of proper diplomatic procedures or deliberate disrespect for this assembly's dignity. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she forced herself to remain calm. Charlie, sensing her tension, moved slightly closer and sat down, looking up at her with complete trust. Furthermore, Zoith Carr continued, this action perfectly illustrates why humanity is not ready for council membership. They cling to primitive emotional attachments that cloud rational judgment. They waste resources on creatures that serve no logical purpose. They demonstrate the exact kind of inefficient thinking that has no place in an advanced galactic community. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated responses. Some delegates seemed to agree with the Korthax position, while others appeared offended by the harsh assessment. Sarah watched the reactions carefully, trying to gauge how many potential allies she was losing. The human delegation may respond, announced the Pre-March, their ancient voice cutting through the noise with absolute authority. Sarah took a deep breath, looking down at Charlie one more time. His brown eyes were calm and trusting, reminding her of why she was here. Commander Zoith Carr raises an important point about efficiency and logical resource allocation. However, I believe this reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what true strength means. She gestured to Charlie, who remained sitting calmly despite the attention of hundreds of alien beings. Charlie is not a tool or a resource. He is my friend, my family, and my responsibility. The relationship between humans and dogs represents something that many species seem to have lost, the ability to form bonds not based on utility, but on love, loyalty, and mutual care. Sentiment. Zoith Carr interrupted with a mechanical click that might have been laughter. Exactly the kind of weakness that proves our point. Is it weakness? Sarah asked, addressing the entire chamber now. Or is it the foundation of true civilization? Charlie doesn't love me because I'm useful to him. He loves me because that's his nature. And I protect him not because he serves a function, but because protecting those who depend on us is what civilized beings do. Ambassador Veltar rose from the Elinari section. If I may contribute to this discussion, they said formally, the Elinari have observed that species which maintain the capacity for unconditional loyalty and selfless protection tend to be more reliable allies and more creative problem solvers. Perhaps the humans' relationship with their companion animals demonstrates advancement, not primitiveness. The Elinari speak from sentiment, not logic, Zoith Carr retorted. Efficiency and rational resource management have allowed the Korthax to colonize over 300 worlds. We have eliminated poverty, disease, and war through logical allocation of resources. What have emotional attachments to non-sentient creatures ever accomplished? Sarah was about to respond when Charlie suddenly stood up, his ears perked and his body tense. He was staring at something in the upper galleries that Sarah couldn't see. A low growl rumbled in his throat, so quiet that only she could hear it. "Charlie," she whispered, but the dog remained focused on whatever had caught his attention. The discussion continued around them, with various delegates weighing in on the merits of emotional bonds versus logical efficiency. Sarah tried to focus on the debate, but Charlie's behavior was distracting her. He was never aggressive without cause, and she had learned to trust his instincts implicitly. Suddenly, Charlie erupted into a series of sharp, urgent barks that cut through every translation system in the chamber. The sound was so unexpected and piercing that it brought the entire assembly to a stunned silence. Every being in the chamber turned to look at the small platform where Sarah and Charlie stood. "Control your creature," demanded Zwydh Carr, their scales cycling rapidly through angry red hues. "This is exactly the kind of disruption we warned about." But Charlie wasn't finished. He continued barking, straining against his leash as he focused on a specific section of the upper galleries. His body language wasn't aggressive. It was the same alert, protective stance he took when he sensed danger approaching Sarah. "Something's wrong," Sarah announced to the chamber. "Charlie only acts like this when he detects a threat." "Ridiculous," scoffed another delegate, a floating creature enclosed in a bubble of swirling gas. "What could a primitive animal detect that our advanced sensor systems could not?" The Primarch raised one ancient appendage for silence. Despite their enormous age and mysterious origins, their authority was absolute. "The human claims their companion has detected a threat. Station security, please conduct a scan of the galleries." "Scanning," announced the station's AI. "All systems nominal. No threats detected." Charlie's barking intensified, and he began pulling toward the edge of the platform as if trying to reach something in the upper levels. Sarah had to brace herself to keep from being pulled off balance. "See?" Zwydh Carr's mechanical voice carried clear satisfaction. "The creature is merely confused by the unfamiliar environment. This interruption proves our point about the unreliability of emotion-based decision-making." "Wait," came a new voice from across the chamber. The speaker was a member of the Xerian Collective, a species known for their advanced hive mind technology. "Our bioneural sensors are detecting unusual pheromone traces in the upper gallery, Section 12. Something that should not be present in this environment." The chamber's attention shifted immediately to the specified section. Enhanced visual sensors focused on the area, and what they revealed sent a ripple of alarm through the assembly. Partially concealed behind decorative elements designed to house the chamber's atmospheric controls, a small device pulsed with an ominous red light. "Security alert," the station's AI announced with sudden urgency. "Unregistered explosive device detected. Initiating evacuation protocols." The chamber erupted into chaos as delegates began moving toward emergency exits. Some species could teleport instantly, others needed time to adjust their environmental suits, and still others required assistance from the station's automated systems. Alarm klaxons blared in dozens of different frequencies to accommodate various species' hearing ranges. Sarah remained on the platform, her hands shaking as she realized what had just happened. Charlie had detected the bomb when the station's most advanced systems had missed it. His animal instincts, honed by millions of years of evolution, had sensed something that technology could not. "Impressive," came a calm voice beside her. The Primarch had somehow appeared on their platform without Sarah noticing. Up close, they were even more mysterious, appearing to be made of some kind of living crystalline material that shifted and flowed like water. "Your companion's senses detected a quantum phase explosive designed to be invisible to standard sensors. Will everyone be okay?" Sarah asked, watching the orderly evacuation proceed around them. "The bomb has been neutralized," the Primarch assured her. Station security responded within optimal parameters. However, without your companion's warning, casualties would have been significant. They turned their attention to Charlie, who had calmed down now that the threat was being addressed. "Remarkable. We have been monitoring galactic threats for eons, and we did not detect the device's presence. As the immediate crisis passed and delegates began returning to their seats, the mood in the chamber had changed dramatically. Beings who had been dismissive of humanity moments before were now looking at Sarah and Charlie with new respect and curiosity. Commander ZYTH rose slowly from their platform, their scales now cycling through colors that Sarah's research indicated meant confusion and reluctant respect. The creature detected a threat that our technology missed. Charlie's senses are far more sophisticated than you might think, Sarah replied, reaching down to pet her dog's head. Dogs can detect, trace, chemical compounds at concentrations measured in parts per trillion. They can sense changes in electromagnetic fields, air pressure, and even emotional states through pheromone detection. What you call primitive, I call highly evolved. The Xerian Collective representative spoke up. Our analysis confirms that the explosive device was emitting quantum phase particles in concentrations that would be undetectable to most technological sensors, but potentially perceptible to biological olfactory systems with sufficient sensitivity. Furthermore, added Ambassador Veltar, the humans' immediate trust in their companion's warning, despite contradictory technological evidence, demonstrates exactly the kind of intuitive decision-making that has value in crisis situations. ZYTH scales shifted through several colors before settling on what appeared to be a reluctant bronze. This changes certain assumptions about the human species and their practices. Sarah looked down at Charlie, who was now lying calmly beside her, his job done. His tail wagged slightly when he met her eyes, as if to say that protecting her and her friends was simply what he was meant to do. Honored delegates, she announced to the chamber, this is exactly what I wanted you to understand about humanity. We don't just form bonds with our animals because of what they can do for us. We form bonds because those relationships make both species stronger, more capable, and more aware of the world around us. Charlie didn't detect that bomb because I trained him to. He did it because protecting the people he cares about is part of who he is. The Primarch nodded slowly, their crystalline form shifting with what might have been approval. The Council will recess to consider today's events. When we reconvene, we will address both the security breach and humanity's petition for membership. As delegates began filing out of the chamber, many stopped to look more closely at Charlie. Some maintained a respectful distance, while others seemed genuinely curious about this creature who had saved them all. Sarah noticed that several species were engaging in what appeared to be heated discussions about what they had witnessed. Ambassador Veltar approached as Sarah prepared to leave the platform. That was quite remarkable. I suspect today's events will influence many delegates' opinions about both human capability and the value of emotional bonds. I just hope they understand that this isn't about Charlie being a tool or a weapon, Sarah replied. It's about the relationship between two species who have learned to trust and protect each other. I believe, Veltar said with something that might have been a smile, that message has been received more clearly than you might think. As they left the chamber, Sarah could hear fragments of conversation from various delegates. Did you see how immediately the human trusted the creature's warning? Perhaps there is wisdom in maintaining such bonds. The animal's loyalty was absolute, even in a dangerous situation. Walking through the corridors of Station Nexus 7, Sarah felt a complex mixture of relief and anxiety. Charlie had potentially saved hundreds of lives and demonstrated something important about the human-animal bond. But she also knew that this incident would raise new questions about Earth's readiness for galactic citizenship. "Good boy, Charlie," she whispered, scratching behind his ears as they walked. "Whatever happens next, you did exactly what you were supposed to do." Charlie looked up at her with those warm, trusting eyes and wagged his tail. For him, the situation was simple. His human had been in a place with other humans, he had detected danger, and he had acted to protect them all. The politics and implications were beyond his understanding or concern. What mattered to him was that his pack was safe. Sarah wished she could see the world with Charlie's clarity. But as they returned to their quarters, She couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow's council session would determine not just humanity's future in the galaxy, but also how other species understood the bonds that had shaped human civilization for millennia. Station Security Chief Karath was not having a good day. The multi-limbed, insectoid Thraxian had been responsible for maintaining order on Station Nexus 7 for over a decade, and nothing like this had ever happened on his watch. A quantum phase explosive device, undetected by the station's most advanced systems, discovered only because a human's pet dog had better senses than a trillion-credit security network. Sarah Chun sat across from him in the security office, Charlie lying calmly at her feet despite the sterile, intimidating environment. Karatha's compound eyes studied them both with an intensity that would have been unnerving if not for his obvious professional competence. Captain Chun, Karath began, his translator rendering his clicking speech patterns into crisp English. I need to understand exactly what your companion detected and when. The implications of this security breach extend far beyond today's council session. Charlie started showing signs of alertness before the bomb was even mentioned, Sarah explained. He was focused on that section of the gallery from almost the moment we entered the chamber. I've learned to trust his instincts completely. And these instincts, Karath continued, making notes on his holographic display, they are typical for this species of companion animal. Dogs have been bred for thousands of years to be sensitive to their environment and protective of their human families. Charlie's breed, golden retrievers, were originally hunting companions, trained to work closely with humans in challenging conditions. Their senses are incredibly acute. Chief Karatha's mandibles clicked in what might have been thoughtfulness. Our preliminary analysis suggests the explosive device was placed sometime during the night cycle, using advanced quantum phase technology that renders it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. The fact that biological senses detected what our systems missed is concerning and impressive. Sarah leaned forward slightly. Chief Karath, can I ask who might have access to that kind of technology? And why would someone want to attack the council session? The Thraxian's expression became even more serious, if such a thing were possible. That information is classified, Captain. However, I can tell you that this type of device requires resources and knowledge that only a few species possess. The timing, targeting the session where humanity's petition was being discussed, is unlikely to be coincidental. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry to the office. Chief Karatha's security display showed Ambassador Veltar waiting outside, accompanied by another figure that Sarah didn't immediately recognize. Enter, Karath commanded, and the door dissolved to allow the visitors inside. Chief Karath, Veltar began formally. I'd like you to meet Senior Analyst Kexhai of the Zirian Collective. They have some information that may be relevant to your investigation. The Zirian representative was unlike any being Sarah had encountered before. Roughly humanoid in shape, but composed of what appeared to be flowing metallic liquid, they moved with an eerily fluid grace. When they spoke, their voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Chief Karath, Captain Chun. Kexhai acknowledged them both before focusing their attention on Charlie. Your companion animal has presented us with a fascinating puzzle. Our post-incident analysis has revealed something unexpected about the explosive device. Karath gestured for them to continue, his compound eyes reflecting the office's harsh lighting. The quantum phase signature of the device suggests it was designed specifically to test detection capabilities, Kexhai explained, their form shifting slightly as they spoke. It was never intended to cause maximum casualties. Instead, it appears to have been a probe designed to evaluate the security systems of both the station and the various delegations present. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying someone was testing us? More precisely, Kexhai continued, they were testing how different species and technologies respond to threats. The fact that your companion detected the device when our most advanced systems did not provide valuable intelligence about human capabilities that someone clearly wanted to gather. Chief Karatha's mandibles clicked rapidly, indicating severe agitation. This suggests a level of surveillance and intelligence gathering that represents a significant security threat. Who has both the capability and the motivation to conduct such a test? Veltar exchanged what appeared to be a meaningful look with Kexhai before speaking. There have been rumors for several cycles about a group calling themselves the Purity Coalition. They believe that only the most advanced species should have access to galactic civilization, and they particularly oppose the inclusion of what they consider primitive races. The Korthax? Sarah asked, though she immediately regretted the assumption. No, excited definitively. While Commander Zyth and their delegation hold strong opinions about efficiency and advancement, they're not associated with extremist activities. The Purity Coalition operates in secret, drawing members from various species who share their ideology. Charlie, who had been lying quietly throughout the conversation, suddenly lifted his head and looked toward the office's main display screen. His ears perked up and his tail began wagging slightly, the same behavior he exhibited when he was happy to see someone familiar. "What is it, boy?" Sarah asked, following his gaze to the screen, which currently showed a routine security feed from one of the station's main corridors. Chief Karath noticed Charlie's reaction and enhanced the display. "Your companion is focusing on this particular corridor. Do you see anything significant?" Sarah studied the feed carefully. Dozens of beings moved through the corridor, going about their normal business during the station's active cycle. Nothing seemed out of place until she noticed a small group near one of the side passages. 3 figures in environmental suits that obscured their species' identity, but something about their movement pattern seemed familiar. "Can you replay this feed from about 10 minutes ago?" Sarah asked. Karath manipulated the display, and they watched as the same group of suited figures moved through the corridor in the opposite direction. One of them paused near a maintenance access point, and, for just a moment, their suit's reflection in a polished wall panel revealed a distinctive scale pattern that Sarah recognized. "Those are Korthax suits," she observed, "but the movement patterns are wrong. Korthax move with very precise, mechanical precision. These figures are moving more organically." Kexai's form shifted with what might have been excitement. "Excellent observation. Someone is using Korthax environmental suits to disguise their identity, probably to implicate the Korthax delegation in suspicious activity. But Charlie recognized something about them," Sarah added, looking down at her dog. "He was happy to see them, which means he's encountered these specific individuals before, probably under positive circumstances." Chief Karath was already pulling up additional security feeds, tracking the suited figures' movements throughout the station. "If your companion's reaction helps us identify these individuals, it could break this investigation open." They spent the next hour reviewing security footage, following the trail of the disguised figures through various sections of the station. Charlie's reactions to different feeds provided crucial guidance, his tail wagging enthusiastically when they appeared on screen, and his attention wandering when the feeds showed other beings. Finally, they tracked the group to what appeared to be a cargo bay on one of the station's lower levels. The figures had removed their suits in an area that should have been outside the range of security sensors, but a maintenance routine had activated additional monitoring that caught them clearly. "Interesting," murmured Kexhai. 2 Valorians and a Christek, all species that are currently candidates for council membership, just like humanity. Sarah felt a sick realization beginning to form. They were trying to frame the Korthax for an attack on a session discussing new member applications. If successful, it would have created suspicion about all the candidate species and potentially delayed or derailed the entire membership process. But why would Charlie react positively to them? Veltar asked. "If they were responsible for the bomb." "Because Charlie doesn't understand politics or subterfuge," Sarah replied. "He just remembers that these individuals were friendly to him when they met, probably during the registration process yesterday or in the dining complex. They would have seemed like nice people who petted him or spoke kindly to him." Chief Karatha's compound eyes fixed on the display, showing the identified conspirators. "This provides us with actionable intelligence. We can arrest these individuals and determine the full extent of their organization." "Wait," Sarah said, an idea beginning to form. What if we don't arrest them yet? What if we use this information to expose the larger conspiracy? Kekai's form shifted with curiosity. Explain your reasoning, Captain Chun. The bomb yesterday was a test, right? They were gathering information about our capabilities. Well, now we have information about them. What if we let them think their plan is working while we gather intelligence about their full organization? Veltor nodded slowly. A counterintelligence operation. Allow them to believe they remain undetected while we trace their contacts and methods. Exactly. And Charlie gives us a unique advantage. They don't know that we've identified them, and they certainly don't understand that a dog's memory and social reactions can serve as an intelligence asset. Chief Karath clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. This approach has merit, but it also involves considerable risk. If they attempt another, more serious attack, then we'll be ready for them, Sarah said with confidence. Charlie detected their first device when all your technology missed it. If they try again, we'll know. The group spent another hour planning their counterintelligence operation. They would continue normal council proceedings while secretly monitoring the identified conspirators and tracking their communications and movements. Charlie's reactions would help them identify other members of the conspiracy, while the station's security forces would be prepared to intervene at the first sign of genuine danger. As they prepared to leave the security office, Chief Korath approached Sarah directly. Captain Chun, I owe you and your companion an apology. When the Korthax delegation complained about your bringing a non-sentient animal to the council proceedings, I agreed with their assessment. I failed to understand that different types of intelligence can complement technological systems. Sarah smiled and reached down to pat Charlie's head. Chief, in my experience, there's no substitute for the bond between partners who trust each other completely. Charlie doesn't understand quantum phase explosives or galactic politics, but he understands that his job is to protect the people he cares about. Sometimes, that's exactly what a situation requires. Charlie looked up at Chief Korath and wagged his tail, apparently deciding that the intimidating Thraxian was now part of his pack, and therefore deserving of friendly attention. Korath extended one of his limbs cautiously, and Charlie sniffed it politely before allowing the security chief to pet him. Remarkable, Korath murmured. He shows no fear of my species, despite our obvious differences. That's one of the things humans learn from dogs, Sarah explained. Judge others by their actions and intentions, not their appearance. Charlie can sense that you're a good person trying to protect others, so he likes you immediately. As they left the security office, Sarah felt a complex mixture of emotions. The investigation had revealed a serious threat to galactic peace, but it had also demonstrated something important about the value of human-animal partnerships. Charlie's unique abilities and instincts were proving to be valuable assets in ways she had never imagined. Sarah, Veltar said as they walked through the corridors, I believe today's events will significantly influence the Council's opinion of humanity's readiness for membership. You've demonstrated that your species brings unique capabilities and perspectives to the galactic community. I hope so, Sarah replied. But more than that, I hope we've shown that strength comes in many forms. Technology and logic are important, but so are intuition, loyalty, and the bonds that connect different species in partnership. They were passing through one of the station's common areas when Charlie suddenly became alert again, his attention focused on a group of beings near an information kiosk. His tail wagged slightly, and Sarah recognized the signs that he was seeing someone familiar. She looked more carefully at the group and spotted one of the individuals they had identified from the security footage. The Valerian was engaged in what appeared to be casual conversation with several other delegates, appearing completely innocent and unaware that they had been discovered. Our friend from the cargo bay, Sarah murmured to Veltar, who followed her gaze. Indeed. And notice who they're speaking with. Representatives from 3 different candidate species, plus that delegate from the Nexus Commerce Guild. Sarah felt Charlie's leash tighten slightly as he tried to move toward the group, his tail wagging with the friendly enthusiasm of a dog who remembered receiving positive attention from these people. To any observer, it would look like a pet eager to greet friendly acquaintances. Charlie's going to help us map their entire network, Sarah realized. He'll identify everyone who was nice to him, and we'll be able to trace the full extent of their organization. Your companion animal has become an intelligence asset, Kexhai observed with what might have been amusement. I suspect the Purity Coalition never anticipated that their own social politeness toward a primitive creature would become the key to exposing their conspiracy. As they continued through the common area, Sarah made mental notes of everyone Charlie showed recognition toward. The conspiracy was larger than they had initially suspected, involving delegates from multiple species and apparently well-funded and organized. But Sarah wasn't worried. She had Charlie, and Charlie had an infallible memory for faces and an instinctive understanding of who could be trusted. In a galaxy full of advanced technology and complex politics, sometimes the most valuable intelligence asset was a dog who simply remembered who had been nice to him. The next phase of their investigation would require careful planning and coordination, but Sarah felt confident they were on the right track. The Purity Coalition had made one critical error. They had underestimated the intelligence and capabilities of a species they considered primitive, and they had certainly never considered that a golden retriever could become their downfall. The next 24 hours on Station Nexus 7 passed in a carefully choreographed dance of surveillance and deception. Sarah Chan moved through the diplomatic quarters and common areas with Charlie at her side, maintaining the appearance of a nervous new delegate preparing for crucial council proceedings while secretly gathering intelligence that would expose the largest conspiracy in galactic diplomatic history. Charlie, blissfully unaware of his role as an intelligence asset, continued to react with tail-wagging enthusiasm whenever he spotted someone who had shown him kindness during their first day on the station. Each positive reaction added another name to the growing list of Purity Coalition conspirators that Chief Karath was assembling in the secure depths of station security. Sarah was reviewing diplomatic protocols in the observation lounge when Charlie's ears perked up and his tail began its telltale wagging. She followed his gaze to see a tall, elegant figure approaching their table, someone she didn't immediately recognize, but whom Charlie clearly remembered fondly. Captain Chun, the newcomer said with a melodious voice that identified them as another Elinari. I am Cultural Attaché Lithera. I had the pleasure of meeting your delightful companion yesterday in the diplomatic gardens. Sarah smiled warmly, while mentally noting this was another individual Charlie had flagged. Of course, Charlie loves meeting new people. Thank you for being so welcoming to him. Lithera settled gracefully into an adjacent chair, their silver skin shimmering under the lounge's soft lighting. I must admit, your presentation to the council yesterday was quite remarkable. The way your companion detected that explosive device when our most advanced systems failed, it has caused considerable discussion among the delegations. Charlie's just being Charlie, Sarah replied modestly. He's naturally protective of people he cares about. Yes, about that, Lithera said, leaning forward slightly. Several delegates have expressed concern about the security implications. If primitive biological senses can detect threats that our technology cannot, it raises questions about the adequacy of our current systems. Sarah felt a chill at the way Lithera emphasized the word primitive. The Elinari she had met previously, Ambassador Veltar, would never have used such language. I wouldn't call Charlie's senses primitive. They're just different from technological sensors. Different, yes, Lithera agreed, but their tone had subtly shifted. Some delegates worry that allowing species with such unpredictable detection capabilities into the council could complicate security protocols. After all, if one delegation's animal can sense things others cannot, it creates an imbalance of information. Now Sarah understood. This wasn't a friendly conversation about Charlie's abilities. It was a carefully crafted attempt to turn yesterday's victory into a liability. The Purity Coalition was trying to convince other delegates that humanity's unique capabilities represented a threat rather than an asset. That's an interesting perspective, Sarah replied carefully. Though I would think any capability that helps protect council members from harm would be welcomed. Ideally, yes. Lithera said with apparent regret. However, there are concerns about verification. How can we be certain that such detections are genuine? How do we know that the device wasn't placed by the very delegation whose animal discovered it? The accusation hit Sarah like a physical blow. They were suggesting that humanity had planted the bomb and then used Charlie to detect it, creating a false crisis to demonstrate their value to the Council. It was a brilliant piece of misdirection, turning their greatest strength into evidence of duplicity. That's a serious accusation, Sarah said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Oh, I'm not making accusations, Lithera replied smoothly. I'm simply sharing the concerns that some delegates have raised. After all, the timing was quite convenient, wasn't it? A bomb threat during humanity's membership presentation, detected only by human capabilities? Charlie, sensing Sarah's distress, moved closer and placed his head on her lap. His warm, reassuring presence helped her focus on what was really happening. The Purity Coalition wasn't just trying to prevent humanity's membership. They were attempting to frame humans for terrorism. I appreciate you sharing these concerns, Sarah said finally. I hope the investigation will address any questions about the incident. Yes, the investigation, Lithera mused. Chief Karath is quite thorough. I'm sure he'll uncover the truth about who really planted that device. The threat in their words was barely concealed. After Lithera departed, Sarah remained in the observation lounge, her mind racing. She needed to contact Chief Karath immediately, but she couldn't risk exposing their counterintelligence operation. Instead, she activated her personal communicator on what appeared to be a routine channel. Chief Karath, this is Captain Shun. Charlie seems to be experiencing some digestive issues from the unfamiliar station environment. Could we schedule a visit to the veterinary facility to have him examined? The coded message was acknowledged within minutes, and Sarah made her way to the medical section with Charlie. The veterinary facility was one of the few areas on the station that could be completely isolated from surveillance, making it perfect for secure communications. Chief Karath was waiting for them, along with Ambassador Veltar and Senior Analyst Kexhai. The secure chamber's walls shimmered with energy fields that would prevent any form of electronic eavesdropping. Report, Karath commanded without preamble. Sarah quickly relayed her conversation with cultural attaché Lithera, including the thinly veiled threats and accusations. They're planning to frame humanity for the bombing. They'll claim we planted the device and used Charlie to discover it as a false flag operation. Kexai's metallic form shifted with agitation, elegant and devastating. If they can convince even a few key delegates that humanity staged the entire incident, it would not only prevent your membership, but could result in your species being banned from Council space entirely. How many conspirators have we identified so far? Veltar asked. Karath activated a holographic display showing a complex network of connections. Charlie's reactions have helped us identify 37 individuals across 12 different species. The conspiracy is far larger than we initially suspected, and it includes delegates from some of the Council's most influential civilizations, including Elinari cultural attaché Lithera, Sarah added. Though I notice Ambassador Veltar isn't on the list, which suggests the conspiracy doesn't include entire delegations, just selected individuals. Correct, Veltar confirmed. Lithera represents a faction within my people who believe that galactic civilization should be limited to species that meet certain technological and philosophical criteria. They see humanity's acceptance as opening the door to what they consider inferior races. Chief Karath's compound eyes reflected the holographic display as he studied the network of conspirators. The pattern suggests they're planning to make their accusations during tomorrow's formal membership vote. Maximum publicity, maximum damage to humanity's reputation. Can we prove they planted the bomb? Sarah asked. We have circumstantial evidence, but nothing that would hold up in a formal tribunal, Karath admitted. The quantum phase technology leaves minimal forensic traces, and they were careful to use equipment that couldn't be easily traced to any specific species. Kexai's form brightened slightly. However, we do have one significant advantage they don't know about. Charlie's ability to identify the conspirators has given us a complete map of their organization. We know who they are, how they communicate, and what they're planning. Then, we need to turn their own plan against them, Sarah said, an idea beginning to form. They want to accuse humanity of staging the bombing? Let's give them exactly what they're expecting. The others looked at her with varying degrees of confusion and concern. Explain, Karath commanded. They're going to claim that Charlie's detection of the bomb was staged, that we somehow trained him to react to a device we planted ourselves. What if we let them make that accusation publicly, and then demonstrate that Charlie can detect devices he's never encountered before? Understanding began to dawn on Veltar's features. A live demonstration during the council proceedings. Place a real device, unknown to you or Charlie, and see if he can detect it. Exactly. But here's the crucial part. We place multiple devices, and we make sure the real bomber is present when Charlie identifies the one they planted originally. Kexai's excitement was visible as their form shifted through several configurations. Brilliant! If Charlie can differentiate between a device planted by security and one placed by the conspirators, it proves not only his genuine ability, but also identifies the actual perpetrators. Chief Karath clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. This plan involves considerable risk. If something goes wrong during the demonstration, then we'll handle it the same way we handled yesterday's crisis, Sarah said with confidence she didn't entirely feel. Charlie and I trust each other completely. If there's a real threat in that chamber, he'll find it. They spent the next several hours planning the demonstration. Chief Karath would place a harmless but detectable training device in one section of the council chambers. The conspirators, if they followed their established pattern, would likely place their own device elsewhere. Charlie would be asked to scan the entire chamber, and his reactions would reveal both devices, proving his genuine ability while identifying the location chosen by the actual bombers. What if they don't plant another device? Veltar asked. Then, we'll have proven Charlie's abilities without exposing their conspiracy, Sarah replied. But I don't think they'll be able to resist the temptation to stage another detection that supports their narrative about human deception. As they prepared to leave the secure facility, Chief Karath pulled Sarah aside. Captain Shun, I want you to understand the stakes here. If this demonstration fails, if your companion cannot perform as expected, humanity's chances of council membership will be destroyed permanently. Are you certain you want to take this risk? Sarah looked down at Charlie, who was lying calmly beside her chair, utterly unaware of the galactic politics swirling around him. All he knew was that his human needed him, and he was ready to do whatever was required to protect her and their friends. Chief Karath, Sarah said quietly, 3 days ago, I was a starship captain whose biggest concern was meeting cargo delivery schedules. Charlie was just my companion and best friend. Neither of us asked to become intelligence assets or representatives of human civilization. But Charlie has never let me down when I really needed him, and I won't let him down now. She paused, watching Charlie's ears perk up as he noticed her attention. Besides, this isn't really about proving anything to the Galaxy Council. It's about showing that the bonds between different species, based on trust, loyalty, and love, are stronger than any conspiracy based on hatred and exclusion. Karath studied them both for a long moment. I believe I am beginning to understand why your species forms these emotional attachments to companion animals. There is indeed strength in such bonds. The strongest kind, Sarah agreed. Tomorrow, Charlie and I will show the galaxy what that strength looks like. As they returned to their quarters for the night, Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The fate of humanity's place in galactic civilization might very well depend on a 4-year-old golden retriever's ability to sniff out explosives planted by conspirators who thought they were smarter than a primitive animal. But, looking down at Charlie, padding along beside her with complete confidence and trust, Sarah felt her doubts fade. They had come this far together, through challenges neither of them could have imagined. Tomorrow would be no different. Whatever the Purity Coalition threw at them, they would face it the same way they always had, as partners, as friends, as family. Charlie looked up at her and wagged his tail, as if to say that whatever tomorrow brought, they would handle it together. And that was all the reassurance Sarah needed. The council chambers buzzed with intention unlike anything Sarah had experienced during her previous visits. Word of the upcoming demonstration had spread throughout Station Nexus 7, and representatives from every major galactic civilization had gathered to witness what many were calling the most significant membership evaluation in council history. Sarah stood at the entrance to the chambers, Charlie sitting calmly beside her, both of them wearing specialized monitoring equipment that would broadcast their vital signs and sensory data to the entire assembly. Chief Karath had insisted on complete transparency to prevent any accusations of deception or manipulation. "Ready, boy?" Sarah asked quietly, scratching behind Charlie's ears. The golden retriever looked up at her with absolute trust, his tail wagging slightly. Whatever was about to happen, he was ready to face it with her. Ambassador Veltar approached, their usually calm demeanor showing signs of strain. "Captain Chun, I must inform you that Cultural Attaché Lithra and several other conspirators have formally requested permission to address the council before your demonstration. They intend to present their accusations publicly." "Let them," Sarah replied with more confidence than she felt. "The truth will speak for itself." The massive chamber doors dissolved, and they entered the sphere where the fate of human civilization would be decided. The assembled delegates represented the collective wisdom and power of hundreds of worlds, thousands of species, and billions of sentient beings. The weight of that responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders like a physical force. The Primarch's ancient voice resonated through the chamber. "We are gathered to address serious allegations that have been raised regarding the incident 3 days ago, as well as to conduct a final evaluation of humanity's petition for council membership. Cultural Attaché Lithera of the Elinari delegation has requested permission to present evidence to this assembly." Sarah watched as Lithera rose from their platform, their silver skin gleaming under the chamber's lights. Unlike Ambassador Veltar's natural elegance, Lithera's movements seemed calculated, theatrical. "Honored Primarch, esteemed delegates," Lithera began, their voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. 3 days ago, we witnessed what appeared to be a remarkable demonstration of human capabilities. A primitive biological entity detected an explosive device that our most advanced technologies could not perceive. This event has been cited as evidence of humanity's value to our galactic community. The chamber remained silent, though Sarah could see delegates throughout the sphere leaning forward with interest. However, Lithera continued, "Careful analysis of the incident has raised troubling questions. The timing was remarkably convenient, occurring during humanity's membership presentation. The location of the device was precisely where it would cause maximum disruption while posing minimal actual danger. Most significantly, only human senses detected the threat." Sarah felt her heart racing, but Charlie remained calm beside her, occasionally looking around the chamber with mild curiosity. "We submit to this council," Lithera announced with dramatic emphasis, "that humanity staged the entire incident. They planted the device themselves, trained their animal to react to specific chemical signatures, and created a false crisis to demonstrate capabilities they do not actually possess." A wave of translated murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates appeared shocked by the accusation, while others seemed to be considering the possibility. Sarah noticed that several of the beings Charlie had identified as conspirators were nodding in apparent agreement. "These are serious accusations," the Primarch observed. "Do you have evidence to support these claims?" "The evidence is circumstantial, but compelling," Lithera replied. "No other species detection systems register the device. The quantum phase signature could easily have been generated by human technology. And, most tellingly, the humans' immediate trust in their animal's behavior suggests prior training rather than spontaneous detection." Commander ZYDH Carr of the Corthax delegation rose from their platform. "If I may address the council, Their mechanically enhanced voice rang out. Sarah braced herself, expecting support for Lithera's accusations. 3 days ago, I publicly criticized the humans for bringing what I considered a primitive creature to these proceedings. I believe their emotional attachment to this animal demonstrated weakness and inefficiency. HFY paused, their scales shifting through several colors. I was wrong. Sarah blinked in surprise, and she noticed Lithera's expression tighten almost imperceptibly. Whatever one thinks of humanity's emotional bonds, ZYTHCar continued, the fact remains that this creature detected a genuine threat when our technology failed. The device was real, the danger was real, and lives were saved. To suggest that humans would endanger hundreds of delegates, including their own representative, for political gain demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of their species' character. The Korthax commander makes valid points, the Primarch acknowledged. However, the allegations require investigation. Captain Shun, you have requested permission to conduct a live demonstration. Sarah stood, feeling the attention of the entire galactic community focused on her and Charlie. On a Primarch, yes. If this council has concerns about Charlie's abilities or the authenticity of his previous detection, we propose to resolve those concerns definitively. Proceed, the Primarch commanded. Chief Karatha's voice echoed through the chamber as he announced the demonstration parameters. Station security has placed a harmless but detectable training device somewhere in these chambers. Captain Shun and her companion have no knowledge of its location or characteristics. We will monitor all of their biological and technological systems to ensure no deception is possible. Sarah took a deep breath and looked down at Charlie. Okay, boy, let's go to work. They began their systematic scan of the chamber, moving slowly through each section while Charlie's enhanced senses probed for any unusual chemical signatures. The Golden Retriever approached the task with the same calm professionalism he brought to everything else, his nose working constantly as he processed thousands of different scents. After nearly 20 minutes of careful searching, Charlie suddenly became alert near the lower galleries. His posture shifted, his ears perked forward, and his tail began wagging with the focused intensity that Sarah recognized as his detection signal. Contact, Sarah announced to the chamber. Charlie has detected something in Section 7 Alpha. Chief Karatha's security team immediately moved to the location, and within moments they had retrieved a small, harmless device designed to emit the same quantum phase signature as an explosive. The chamber erupted in excited chatter as the demonstration appeared to confirm Charlie's genuine abilities. But Charlie wasn't finished. Instead of relaxing after his successful detection, he remained alert and began moving toward a different section of the chamber. His behavior was different now, more urgent, more focused. Sarah recognized the signs immediately. Charlie's detected something else, she announced, her voice cutting through the chamber's noise. Something he wasn't supposed to find. The chamber fell silent as delegates realized what was happening. The conspirators had indeed planted another device, hoping to control the narrative by having Charlie detect something they had placed. But they hadn't counted on the dog's ability to differentiate between the training device and a real threat. Charlie led Sarah to a section of the upper galleries that appeared completely normal. But his behavior was unmistakable. This was the same urgent, protective alertness he had shown 3 days ago. Chief Karatha's security teams converged on the location, and within minutes they had uncovered another quantum phase device, this one considerably more sophisticated than the training device. Analysis confirms, Chief Karath announced to the stun chamber. The second device, unknown to security personnel, has been located and neutralized. The Primarch's attention focused on Lithera, whose silver skin had taken on a distinctly pale hue. Cultural attaché, you appear surprised by this discovery. Do you have any knowledge of how a second device came to be present in these chambers? This is clearly another human deception, Lithera stammered, but their voice lacked the confident authority they had displayed earlier. They must have planted multiple devices to make their demonstration appear more impressive. An interesting theory came a new voice from across the chamber. Senior analyst Kexhai of the Zirian Collective was rising from their platform, their metallic form shifting with obvious satisfaction. However, our analysis of both devices reveals significant differences in their construction and quantum signatures. The massive holographic display at the chamber's center activated, showing detailed technical readouts that most delegates could understand despite language differences. The training device placed by security shows standard station manufacturing patterns. The second device, however, exhibits construction techniques and materials consistent with a coalition of species attempting to disguise their involvement. Sarah watched as Lithera's expression shifted from confident accusation to obvious panic. Around the chamber, she could see other conspirators beginning to look uncomfortable as they realized their plan was unraveling. Furthermore, Kexhai continued, our surveillance of the chambers during the past cycle has identified the individuals responsible for placing the second device. The holographic display shifted to show security footage of 3 figures in environmental suits moving through the upper galleries during the night cycle. The same footage Chief Karath had shown them during their investigation, revealing the conspirators placing their trap that they had hoped would support their false accusations against humanity. The analysis of movement patterns, biological signatures, and trace evidence has allowed us to identify these individuals, Chief Karath announced. Cultural attaché Lithera of the Elenari delegation, Trade Representative Vorthan of the Valerian Republic, and Technical Specialist Krexhai of the Christek Confederacy. The chamber erupted in chaos as the accused conspirators found themselves surrounded by security forces. Some tried to deny involvement, others attempted to justify their actions, and a few simply sat in stunned silence as their carefully planned conspiracy collapsed around them. You fools! Lithera shouted at their fellow conspirators as security restraints activated around them. This was supposed to be simple. Plant evidence, make accusations, watch the primitives destroy themselves. Honored delegates, the Primarch's voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. It appears we have witnessed not only a demonstration of remarkable detection capabilities, but also the exposure of a conspiracy designed to manipulate these proceedings through deception and false accusations. Sarah looked down at Charlie, who was now sitting calmly beside her, his job done. He looked up at her with those warm, trusting eyes and wagged his tail slightly, as if to say that protecting their friends from bad people was simply what they did. Captain Chun, the Primarch addressed her directly. Your companion has once again detected threats that our most advanced systems missed. More significantly, both you and your companion have demonstrated the kind of integrity and capability that this council values in its members. The ancient being paused, surveying the assembled delegates. The conspiracy we have just witnessed represents everything that the Galactic Council stands against: prejudice, deception, and the belief that only certain species deserve the benefits of civilization. The humans and their remarkable companion animal have shown us that true advancement comes not from technology alone, but from bonds of trust, loyalty, and mutual protection. Ambassador Veltar rose from the Elenari platform, their expression showing both relief and deep shame. On behalf of my people, I formally apologize to the human delegation and to this council for the actions of our corrupted representative. Lithera's behavior does not reflect Elenari values or our support for inclusive galactic civilization. Similar apologies came from the delegations whose members had been exposed as conspirators. The Valerian Republic and Christek Confederacy both issued formal statements condemning the actions of their representatives and reaffirming their support for the Council's principles. The question before this Council, the Primarch announced, is not whether humanity possesses advanced technology or perfect efficiency. The question is whether they demonstrate the character, wisdom, and capability that we seek in Council members. Today's events have provided a definitive answer. The vote, when it came, was overwhelming. Species after species rose to formally welcome humanity into the Galactic Council, many citing not just Charlie's remarkable abilities, but the bond between human and dog as evidence of the values that made civilizations truly great. As the proceedings concluded and delegates began filing out of the chambers, many stopped to speak with Sarah and Charlie. Some wanted to thank them for exposing the conspiracy. Others were simply curious about the human-dog bond, and still others offered formal invitations to visit their worlds. Commander Zuitkar approached last, their scales cycling through colors that indicated what appeared to be embarrassment and respect. Captain Shun, I owe you and your companion a significant debt. My initial assessment of your species was inadequate. Thank you, Commander, Sarah replied. I hope this experience has helped you understand that efficiency isn't the only measure of advancement. Indeed, the Korthax Confederation would be honored to learn more about human-animal partnerships. We suspect there may be valuable lessons for our own civilization. ZYTHKar paused, looking down at Charlie. May I? Sarah nodded, and the imposing Korthax commander carefully extended one scaled hand toward Charlie. The golden retriever, ever friendly, sniffed the offered hand and then allowed himself